And good evening, everybody. Yes, this is Live and Uncut. I'm back. Had a lovely break. I went on a holiday, took a little cruise around Italy, which was very relaxing and thoroughly enjoyable. Back to the fray, back to work today. What a shame. And I had a guest lined up for you this evening. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I'm going to keep it a secret till next week when he's agreed to come on the show. But for family reasons, he can't make this evening. So what I've done, I've quickly sent out the parachute and asked for my some friends of mine to join me from the Arcanum. My good friend Greg Houghton has joined me. We've spoken many times on Google Hangouts, but once before on my show. But we got a new member of our Arcanum, our cohort, Vesa Loikas, who's from Finland. So Vesa, a big welcome to the street photography cohort run by Valerie Jardin. Welcome to Live and Uncut.
Thank you very much. It's a great opportunity to join you, and I've been in the Arcanum just for 2 weeks, but so far it's been just wonderful to meet all of you.
Yeah, tell us where you're from then, Vesa, and your background, and what you get up to on that 9 to 5 job that we all hate to talk about.
Well, actually, I'm an architect as a profession. And this photography is my second profession. So, right now I do it as a business, but so far it's been that I support my habit with the business. So, I've been photographing since I was 12 years old. So I've been doing it a long time, but lately I've been getting more into it. So. This is where I'm at right now.
Street photography, is that your thing, or is it something which you've got into over the last short while, so to speak?
I think I got a print from my first roll of film when I was like 13 years old, and when I look at it now, I think that's street photography right there. So I think I've come back to full circle in the street photography. Nice. So. I've been doing a lot of. I've done the wedding shoots, and I've done architecture a lot. That's kind of where I've done the most of my photography and architectural work. But lately I've been starting to understand that people are important in the photographs. So I've got back into the street and people.
Yeah, exactly. And you're from Finland. Whereabouts in Finland are you from?
I'm from the southwest corner of Finland, kind of just across the Baltic Sea from Stockholm, on the other side.
Lovely.
Yep.
Never been to Finland, but I can assure you, I'd love to go there. One of my favourite cities in the whole of Europe would be Stockholm. To be quite honest with you, that is where probably I fell in love with street photography. When I visited there. And
the light is
an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Superb light. Superb.
The kind of the Nordic light that's a little different.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, now I'm going to switch over to the other side of my country, into Dublin. This is fantastic. I'm talking to a guy in Finland and a guy in Dublin. Greg, my good friend Greg. How you keeping, Greg?
Not too bad. Yourself, Paul?
Yeah, you've got a big arrival coming up soon. Is it how many days to go?
Well, it's officially due on Monday, but we'll see. We'll see if the baby wants to play ball. Could be up to 2 weeks, so we'll wait and see anyway. Okay. So.
Is this your first child, or have you?
No. This is the first. So I'm a bit worried what's going to happen to the photography over the next 6 months, but hopefully we might see a few different. Shots coming out of me.
Bye-bye to photography for the next 9 months to a year, I can assure you.
Yeah, I've been there.
Me too, yeah.
Plenty of baby shots anyway.
Plenty of baby shots. I'll tell you what, try and put the baby out in the pram in the street, and you'll get all the girls in the group saying, "Oh, isn't she lovely?" You'll get all the pluses. You'll get all the pluses there. You'll be laughing. So yeah, it's that Monday. So. Right, I'm going to be looking out for a quick email and some notice.
If I have to leave in a hurry tonight, you know what's happened, so if I suddenly just get up and dash off the screen. If
we get the door knocked down, Greg, let's go. I fully understand. I've been there before. Know exactly how you feel. It's one of those stages where the 9 months is nearly over and you think, oh my God, what's going to happen next? But I tell you, at the end of the day, when they're at university, then they're out and they're working, it's all worthwhile. It's just it's a long time to wait. Anyway, we were just chatting before the start of the show, and I thought what we kick off with is doing new projects. Just a totally different idea, because whilst I was away on holiday, I got a chance to do some street photography, but obviously being on on a cruise, you're probably visiting places and you're more tending to put air towards more sort of landscape and vista type images. I took a lot of photographs of the sea, by the way, but there you go. So at that time I thought, well, I've got to do something different, and just recently I've been playing about with my iPhone with a couple of apps and just sort of building some what I term as art photography. And I just wanted to ask, let's go to you first, Professor, with regards to getting away from this is where we're in the Arcanum now, and of course Valerie is pushing for us to produce new work, new street work. But there does come a time, I think, where we probably get a little bit sort of tied down and we want to have a break away from it. So in terms of photography, what do you do to get away from, dare I use the term, street photography with people in the image, Professor?
Well, I don't know if I ever get away from it, but I try to take an approach that I just bring my camera anywhere I go and kind of not think about the photography at the point when I'm taking photographs. So because I've noticed that that's kind of the best attitude for me to be in, to get a good photograph. And then when I'm not photographing, then I'm kind of thinking about photography, etc. But usually I kind of separate those two things, and so the mobile phone camera work is more like sketching. I feel like I rarely get a good image out of it, but it's still very useful as a practice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, you mentioned practice, which is because I was just going to ask you, in actual fact, I meant to ask you this: what level are you at the moment with the cohort?
Oh, I just started like I think it's about 2 weeks ago. Like yeah, something like that.
So you're right at the beginning, because what you'll find is there's one of the levels coming up where Valerie has set. Is it 20 subject matters,
yes,
which you have to go out and photograph, and I'll tell you that's tough, because really you've been told to go and get these images, and it's not a case of, oh, that's nice, I'll take that, that's nice. But you've actually got a script to go by. So that happens. What about yourself, Greg? Have you been doing anything different recently apart from normal street photography?
I suppose in some ways my approach to street photography is slightly different, because I suppose similar to this, I have a lot of interest in architectural images and architectural abstracts and things like that. So when I'm doing my street photography and looking for the characters and looking for the stories on the street, I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for the architecture as well. So I try to mix it up a little bit while I'm actually out in the street, rather than strictly concentrating on one thing. I'll always have my eye out for anything. I mean, on the side, I kind of started as a kind of travel and landscape photographer, and I still love that. So I will go out and do, I suppose, landscapes now and again. Fortunately, not had much travel recently, but certainly landscapes.
Yeah. I think it's good to get away from just being down in one line all the time. I think it's important to sort of spread your mind a bit.
Yeah, and then again, even within the street category, though, I'm finding now, moving into the kind of second sphere, if you like, of the Arcanum, again, I've kind of pictured a different switch in the type of street photography that I want to do there. I kind of want to move away from essentially chasing the characters around the street, looking for those interesting people that catch my eye. Really want to, I suppose, focus on sort of two things, and they're kind of related. I mean, the first is I've been very much inspired by a lot of sort of precise photos of Paris by night. So coming into the winter, I want to try a lot more nighttime photography, mixing that into the street. And with that, you have to be very conscious of the light and where the light is. That's kind of where I want to go. And then during the daytime, again, I'm looking to use more dramatic light, more harsher shadows, more contrast in the image, and try to again work more patterns and sort of more abstract kind of type feeling into the street photography. So It's going to be a very much a kind of different approach to street photography, and that I'm going to be taking over the next few months. So again, and hopefully that'll keep it fresh.
That's right.
And get some new challenges.
I think that's one thing that I noticed the last critique session with Valerie was before I went into the next sphere, was I was looking for something different, and I noticed that my post-processing, my editing process was the same as if I was doing an interior shot of a cathedral to an external shot of a shot of a vista or a landscape to doing a street shot, and I was increasing the highlights, decreasing the shadows. I'm getting that sort of HDR type look to my image. This is all through Lightroom. I very rarely go out of Lightroom. And it was putting my photography, it just didn't feel right until I stumbled across the idea of just knocking the shadows right down and just adding a little bit of highlight. And then this is where Greg's talking about that Brassai type style where you get heavy shadows. Soul Lighter's got that style as well, heavy shadows and a very contrast color, which was obviously emphasized with the use of his color film and the film that he used. So it's good the way that you develop through the Arcanum, and you start adopting different styles rather than going through the normal way you've done your photography before, because projects will be more in mind as you step into the next tier. Just coming back to you, Vesa, with regards to your architecture. Obviously, your architecture requires you to upright are upright, horizontal to horizontal. As I joked before, no Dutch angle in your photography, I would assume. Can you talk us about the type of gear that you would use in that work?
In that work, I usually use DSLRs and tripods, and kind of plan to shoot very carefully and look at the light and spend time in the exterior or interior of the architecture. So it's very kind of time-consuming and more deliberate kind of work, whereas street photography is more adjusting to the exact moment, kind of the opposite.
Exactly right. You can see it. So do you use a tilt shift lens with your architecture work, or?
No, actually, because what I've noticed when I started doing architectural photography, like maybe 10 years ago, the software wasn't quite up there, but right now the software is so good at correcting the images that you don't really need a tilt shift. If I could afford one, I probably would use one, but post-processing takes care of that.
Yeah, the Nikon tilt shift lenses are a bit on the heavy side. What Nikon is that you're using? It is Nikon, isn't it?
Yeah, I had or still have, but I haven't used it as much, is the D7000.
D7000, right.
Yeah. And then Sigma lenses, I think for architecture, the 10 to 20 Sigma zoom is very good for wide angle.
Yeah.
So.
Is this predominantly external architectural work, or are you looking to do interior work as well?
I've done both.
Done both?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, when I do exteriors, there you don't necessarily need a wide angle. That's fine with, especially interior, that's the more difficult one, and that's where the wide angle comes into play.
Yeah. Of course, with Greg, Greg's a 4/3 user with the Olympus OMD. That's right, isn't it, Greg?
It is, yeah. I started my Canon 550D, and actually the one lens I did hold on to that was the Sigma 10 to 20. I was talking about there, and that's my landscape lens. So when I do my landscapes, I do like the kind of the super wide look, getting a nice, interesting foreground element such as a good rock or something like that, and then just letting the vista go out behind that. So.
Yeah. So when you guys are doing something different rather than street photography, what are you doing on the editing side? Are you looking to sort of experiment a little bit with the editing through Lightroom or whichever editing process you use?
That's what Vesa, do you want to take that, or?
Sure. Yeah, I use Lightroom and Photoshop extensively, and then the Nick collection of the plugins for black and white. And like you said, that it's a different beast, so to speak,
Yeah.
to edit architectural photograph than a street photograph. And a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to get an artist residence in New York, and I was shooting a lot of the street photography. And then I also had these local dancers who took me to places, and we had sort of these improvised street dances that I would photograph and document their work. And that's really the point when I got into this back into street photography. And that's when I noticed that you really have to have a different vision and different mindset when you are working with those images than like compared to architectural work, where in architectural work you want to be very detailed, that you want to kind of show everything, whereas in street photography a lot of times you want to hide stuff and kind of push it to the black and let it blow out the whites, if you know, to get the feel of it. So so that's how I kind of approach it nowadays. It's you try to find what's the vision in your head about the image, and then you go to that direction instead of doing mechanically this and that you know, one, two, three step thing. So
yeah, this is what I was saying to you before when I was mentioning about how I used to process my images. Something which I learned from watching a particular podcast was this: increase the highlights, decrease the shadows. Sorry, increase the shadows, decrease the highlights, to give it that balanced look. And of course, as you say, and quite rightly, it doesn't give you the atmosphere that you're really looking for in a street.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Sorry, Greg, you were going to say something else earlier on, and
no, I suppose I have a lot of software that Vesa mentioned there. To be honest, I tend to do, I would say 95% of my processing in Lightroom. I do a Photoshop, and I would tend to jump over there if there was something that actually needed fixed that I couldn't do in Lightroom. I mean, for my landscapes, the one bit of specialist software I probably do use a fair bit is PT GUI Pro, which is it's a panoramic stitching software. Strictly, that's all it does. But it's brilliant. It's having compared different sets of panoramics between that and Photoshop, it does a far better job. And Photoshop is not bad at panoramics, but it's a really good piece of equipment.
So, do you use Nick software yourself?
I do, yeah. I mean, primarily solver effects. I do use a little bit of color effects now and again, but not a huge amount. And then do play around with analog effects as well. So.
Yeah. What about the situation where do you ever get to a situation where you're out with your camera and you just don't know, you've hit a wall, you just don't know what you want to shoot, you can't see anything? Do you guys ever get like that? You know, that for instance, maybe it's a place where you've been to many times before and you just hit a total blank. Does that ever happen to you?
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. I mean, I probably had a situation like that about 2 weeks ago. I went out again, back to street photography, but I was out in the street in 2 hours. So I was probably I didn't come back with anything. But I mean, it's one of the, I've kind of learned to accept it now, and like say, if I have one of those days, I have one of those days. I don't try and not get too hot and bothered about it. Just accept it.
Too hot and bothered about it. Yeah, exactly. Too heads up.
Just let it be, and just keep shooting. And these things will come back to you. So subjects will come to you.
Yeah. Vesa, have you had this? Do you have this problem?
Yeah, I think actually, I think maybe it goes back to my film days, because I started photography, 30 years ago. That I probably don't shoot that much overall if you just count the frames. But when I get kind of stuck, what I do is I kind of make an excuse, kind of some kind of a game, or I start to kind of narrow down to the idea that I gotta shoot this scene with the car or whatever, with the person, or kind of, because I find it that when everything is wide open, I'm like, I don't know what to do. But when I kind of narrow down and I have some kind of a purpose, even though it would be a kind of made up purpose, then I kind of get out of the jam, so to speak.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I asked the question, because the final stop on my holiday on the cruise that was in Venice.
Yeah.
And obviously cruised into the port at mid-afternoon, which it was around about 1 o'clock in actual fact. We actually cruised in, which we were a bit disappointed about, because we were hoping to have a longer time in the city, because the following day we were flying home. And obviously you've got this mayhem as you're coming into Venice with all these boats going all over the place, you know, your taxis, your transports, and tugs and gondolas, you know, all the sorts. And I took some great scenes with coming in, pretty much what everybody else has taken, but I wanted them for my own portfolio, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when we got off the ship, straight into St. Mark's Square and walked around, took some photographs there, and there was a scene, and unfortunately a little girl had lost her family, so she got pretty upset. I wanted to take a photograph, but I thought, no, this is not an appropriate time, so I let it go. And then we walked to Rialto Bridge, and it was at this time where the crowds were we were just jammed. It was a struggle for me to put the camera to my eye, to be perfectly honest with you. And I was saying to Greg earlier on, the latest craze with iPhones is to have them on an extended arm, and you have a little trigger, so you can do your own little selfie. And of course, our friends from China and Japan they've all got them. They've all got them. If they haven't got an iPad, they've got one of these iPhones on a wand, so to speak. And I got to that point, and I couldn't take any photographs. I just didn't know what to take. I thought, well, I've taken so many balconies. This is ridiculous. I've taken so many lanes. I can't keep taking the photograph of someone's back of the head. So what I in actual fact did was a little trick which I learnt from Alex Lambrecht. I switched my camera to manual, put the speed to 1/15 of a second, and the aperture to f11, and switched the flash on. And I was walking around holding the camera above my head, just flashing it away, trying to get those blurred effects. And what it did was, it sort of just, I'm not saying anything was successful, but it just seemed to open up my vision again, and I got back into taking photographs of people walking around. And as one of the things which we talk quite a lot on the Arcanum is taking portraits of strangers. And if you've crossed that line, Vesa, and you can do it, well, you're well on your way. It's still difficult for me, but I came across these people dressed in the masks and the long Edwardian hair and everything. And of course I was away then, but it was just that short period of time where total blank. I thought, what? I'm in a beautiful city, but I just didn't know what to take. So I was just doing a little bit of mucking around, which seemed to sort of open up the floodgates for me to start taking some photographs again. How do you find taking portraits of strangers, Vesa?
I can't say that I've maybe done a proper stranger project in a sense, because I've been to Arcanum and I didn't think about it as a thing to do in a sense, but I got a lot of great portraits of strangers, but they're taken with maybe a longer lens or something like that, in a crowd, or kind of anonymous kind of way, and I do find them
candidly
very interesting. Yeah, that is a kind of a great subject, and trying to capture somebody that you don't know, but trying to capture something essential about them without knowing them is very kind of the magic of photography in a sense.
Yeah, this is an interesting aspect now, because I prefer to take the candid shot of someone on the street rather than asking them for a straight portrait. But I'm doing it more and more. I'm getting used to crossing that line. How are you finding it, Greg? You're okay with street portraits, aren't you, as such?
Okay, I'll never say it was easy, but I've done them in the past. Again, it's not something I do a lot. I'm the same as you. I much prefer candid situations, but if the right person comes along and then I feel that need to really capture that person, then I don't say I have a problem, but I'll force myself to make that leap the courage and go up and ask a question.
Yeah, it is a real effort for me to sort of say, excuse me, can I take your photograph? It sounds so strange because we've got in our cohort, you'll meet Susan, and she's such an unassuming lady when she's on our little get-together. She's so quiet. She's so, I wouldn't say she's shy, but apparently when she gets out on the street, she's away, and she's out there, chat, can I have your photograph? And away she goes. And she was, in actual fact, the lady that gave me a target one particular day when I was going out, and she said, go and get 5 portraits, and that's what I needed. I needed someone to tell me, go and get 5. If you're not comfortable, just get 3. As it turned out, I got 7 on the day. I'd slotted in quite nice and it worked out. It is a skill. Hugo, another guy on our cohort, he's doing something really interesting now, catching that candid moment with an expression. Sometimes it's the laughter, obviously, that's the obvious one, but I've noticed a number of his images are where someone's really looking at him and frowning, means saying, why are you taking my photograph? And he's that relationship that he gets in the photograph. That's going to be an interesting project to watch develop. To be quite honest with you, I think that's a very good idea that he's got there. Let's talk about favourite photographers. We've gone through this one before, Greg and myself. So who would you say, if you could give me your top 3 photographers, who would they be?
I don't know. I mean, my approach to that is right now I just try to kind of feed the art of photography, and I don't know if I can strictly name 3 photographers because there's just too many, and every one of them has a good point. So what I do is I look at a lot of photographers' work, and I kind of try to pick their their approach, and usually what I notice that somehow some parts of those photographs kind of I use later on and that's how I know that I kind of like that style or whatever. And so obviously all the kind of the classic photographers are kind of like, one time I met Richard Avedon, who was kind of this fashion photographer in Minneapolis. I used to live in Minneapolis, where Valerie lives right now. But anyway, and he was at the museum there, so that's how I met through him. But he was doing this kind of a trip through Texas and southern U.S. and photographing strangers, in a sense, with a white sheet in the back and big camera, and somehow I find those photographs a little bit too exploitative, or I think it was like exploiting the subjects, but the kind of the style, purely visually, I kind of enjoy that kind of a portrait where they're not professional models, but you kind of get really into the heart of the person. That's what I'm kind of going after with my current projects, where I'm shooting dancers in the street, where I find that another artist is a very good kind of companion for a photographer. So you can kind of exploit the person without thinking that you're like using them, because they are also performing or doing the art. So that's kind of my answer. Long answer. Yeah.
I was just thinking actually while you were talking there, because Greg, you've done some of this style of photography which Hugo's doing as well, catching the emotion of an individual. That's right, isn't it? Because there was one particular photograph, remember, with the fella leaning up against the railings.
I'm trying to think of which one it was.
It was a mono photograph with a fella leaning up against the railings, and there was something going on in the background, but he he looked a total misfit. I'm pretty certain it's an image of yours, but it's capturing this emotion.
That's right.
Rather than the straightforward portrait.
Yeah.
Naturally sitting there or standing, smiling, thank you very much, need move on to the next one. You want some kind of emotion, whether it's anger or concern or
even confusion. Confusion is often
confusion, exactly right, which is an absolute classic. You know, why are you doing this? You know,
well, I suppose
why are you doing this?
I suppose it goes back to what Valerie's always telling us. It's about the story, and the emotions is one of the key ways that as a photographer, that if we capture that emotion, we can also we tell the story through the visual picture. So we rely on these emotional cues for us to convey the emotions to the viewer of the photographer. So it's I think it's key.
For me, there's two images that immediately come to mind for emotion in the fact that the one was by Henri Cartier-Bresson, was the little boy carrying a bottle of wine, and the girl is behind, and the other little boy is looking at them, and he's just caught it at the right moment. And the other one that I was thinking of was William Klein's photograph of the boy with a pistol pointing it straight at the photographer, and he's got such this vicious face on him. You know, he's really mean as though he's going to do some harm. But
it's not even the boy in the photo, Paul. There's the little girl who's also in the photo. It's like it's just emotion on both their faces, and it's just
exactly
absolutely brilliant. So.
Yeah, he's capturing that emotion that you see. There's a photographer which Hugo was going on about last time I spoke to him. Is it Thomas Loutard?
Yes.
Remember, Greg?
Yeah, that's he's a French or Swiss street photographer, isn't he?
That's right. This is the guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Vesa. He basically he goes straight up to someone, boom, takes the photograph and carries on walking, and what's just happened? You know, it's really, and that's when he gets this emotion, which is really what I think Hugo is trying to sort of. I'm going to use the word replicate, but I don't mean that in an unkind way. I mean it's a style of photography which I think dare I say, you've got to have some balls to do it, to be quite honest with you, because you just don't know what the reaction is going to be. And you've got to use cameras which are certainly not DSLRs. They're too big. You've got to have a smaller camera like the Fuji or the OMD, which you've got there, Greg. Just on the subject of cameras, I think we're just approaching Photokina's coming up. I just wondered if there's anything that you may have your sights on, of thoughts of would you be looking to upgrade your camera gear that you've got at the moment for something which you can see in the wings which may suit you a little bit better than what you're using at the moment? Vesa?
Well, I don't know if it was mentioned before, but I did get the Fuji X100S earlier this year, and I really love the picture quality of the camera. As a camera, I sometimes have a problem that it's not quite as fast as a SLR. But so maybe I can't remember the exact, what are the abbreviations or what's the model number for the, you got the XE1?
I've got the XE1, which is...
Is there an XE2 or is there coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
The XE2 is out. That's been out about a year now, probably 18 months.
Then there's X1 Pro, right?
There's the X and the X Pro one.
X Pro ones, okay. It's what I'm waiting for is the X Pro 2.
X Pro 2, yeah. That I think you'll find that's going to be announced at Photokina. From what I've been reading on Fuji Rumors, I think that the X Pro 2 is probably going to be announced at Photokina. So
interchangeable lens, but still kind of a similar style as 100.
Works on the rangefinder. Whether they'll have the OLED viewfinder like it works with the X Pro one, I don't know, because the X30, which they've just upgraded from the X20, they've taken away the OLED and they've gone straight to the EVF viewfinder now. So because it gives you 100% coverage, you don't have any interference from the lens. But I wouldn't be surprised if the X Pro one is announced at Photokina, which is not too far away now. I think it's only about 2 weeks away now.
X Pro 2, you mean?
X Pro 2, yeah. X Pro 2,
yeah, that's right. You know.
How about yourself, Greg? Nothing on the horizon for you. You're quite happy with what you've got?
Yeah, I love the OMD. Interesting enough, I was reading on one of the rumour sites the other day that I think there's a firmware update coming out for the OMD fairly soon. So,
Okay.
and I think it's got actually some actual feature changes in it as well as just your kind of normal bug upwares and things like that. So, I'm kind of interested to see what comes out with that. Other than that, then it's really at this stage probably lenses. Looking for probably I've got my 45 1.8, possibly even the 80 1.8 as well. And again, that's another direction that I kind of think of moving with the kind of street photography that I'm finding myself is probably shooting more in the telephoto range rather than the wide range. So looking for some fast telephoto primes really is probably on the list at the moment.
That's an interesting point you make there, because I've got just two lenses with the XE1. I've got the 27mm and the 1855. They call it a kit lens, but to be quite honest, there's no way is it a kit lens. It is a quality bit of kit, the 1855. And when I was in the couple of the cities that I visited, I had the 27mm on straight away. It's on the camera all the time. But basically, when I got into the cities, I found I switched the 1855, which just gave me that opportunity to sort of diversify a little bit with the photographs. But reading just recently, one lens which probably would take me down the same line as yourself with the portraits is the 56mm Fuji 56mm. I think it's a 1.2.
It's 1.2, yeah.
1.2. 1.2, which really does look a quality piece of kit, but it's close to £1,000. So I think that might have to go on the back shelf for a little bit longer. That thought. But talking about cameras, as I say, I've got the XE1. The camera which has really caught my eye just recently is this new X30, which is a small compact camera with a zoom lens fitted to it. They've done some very neat upgrades on it, so I'd be interested to see that when it hits the shops in September, just to sort of basically as a backup camera to my XE1. That's got a 2/3 inch sensor, but if it's anything like my little XF camera, which I just take when I go to dinner parties or something like that, the image out of that is very good for a 2/3 inch sensor. I'm really pleased with that model, but I think the X30 will suit me better. But I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of Photokina over the next I think that's 2 weeks away, I think, from what I remember rightly. I think it's the 16th of September. But anyway, so one thing which I also like to do is photo books, reading up on books. Any books that you've bought recently, Vesa, which of the photographers that
I got
caught your eye?
Yeah, I got plenty of books in the back. Well, this one was excellent. You've probably seen this.
Road to Seeing. I've seen it, but I've never.
I mean, it's just beautiful. The quality of the images and.
Oh, lovely.
And there's a lot of pictures that are not his, so kind of it's kind of his life story of Dan Winters. And then let's see. I think that's kind of on the photo book.
That's the one that's your favorite at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, because I've been reading that, and then I generally buy a lot of art books, just anything. I mean, whether it's paintings or sculpture and kind of look at them, and because I find that all the arts influence my photography, so I don't strictly do like photographic books and I do a lot of I go to library often and just get a bunch of books because there's no cost. And whether I spend 5 minutes or 50 minutes with the book, but I just kind of glance through and get a sense of what's going on. So that's kind of my approach.
Yeah, it's a good approach actually. I've got loads of books. The most recent one which I bought was Soul Lighter's color book, which I just keep going back to and just flicking through lovely images. There it is. He's got it. He's got it. Have you got the video yet?
No. Actually, yeah. Sorry, yeah, I did watch the documentary. So yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it. So
very good documentary. Great documentary. I interviewed Thomas Leach a few weeks ago that produced that video. And I was quite amazed how long it took him to get the show together after initially making the call. It took him a year before he could actually go over and see the guy in America, and he's so lucky to get it done because he died just a few months after the film was released in the UK. So, but he would be my favourite all-time photographer of all time. Books. How about you, Greg? What sort of books do you like looking through? What is there a particular photographer that you follow now? I know you mentioned Brassai earlier on.
Well, funnily enough, I was at a gallery just a couple of weekends back, and just a little kind of local photo exhibition, but it has a little shop attached to it as well. So the old Brassai Paris, it was on sale for €10, so I couldn't help myself.
Exactly.
Had to be added
is that the Tash 10 book?
It is, yes.
Yeah. It's really. I got that a couple of weeks ago myself. I picked one up in Waterstones. It was slightly damaged and it was reduced. I thought I can't remove.
That's the same with mine. Mine was on sale as well. So I was
like, just a tiny little nick in the cover. And much to my amazement, my daughter said, "Well, you never do that, Dad." I said, "Missing an opportunity to get this book so cheap. There's no way I was going to miss it." But great book, great photographs, superb. I love his work.
So I mean, the other thing that actually happened when I was at the gallery is that they're doing they run little courses as well. So I'm going to do a kind of half-day course on Freeman and Mountain. So because the other thing I've been doing recently is doing a fair bit of printing. So and I've got a lot of gear to cut mounts and things like that. I just really need practice and a bit of help in actually doing it. So kind of looking forward to that course as well. So.
That's lovely. We were talking just before Vesa joined us about Meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's a group of people that you met in Dublin there that does some photography through Meetup. Tell us about that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I actually knew nothing about it, and it was actually through my Feedly RSS feed. It was actually Eric Kim. He'd had a little blog post on a street exhibition in Dublin, which again I'd heard nothing about, so decided to go along to have a look at the photos. Some really nice photos there, and I found out it was actually part of a group called the Irish Street Photographers, who just meet up through this the app called Meetup. So went and downloaded it, and then went along to their first a meetup last weekend in Dublin, and I think there was 40 photographers there of various skill levels.
Fantastic.
I think we had 2 hours, 3 hours just shooting in the streets, and then we all met up in one of the coffee houses afterwards for coffee and just chat. So it was a good experience, and probably go along on next one's as well.
Yeah, why not? You're not a member of a local club, are you?
No, I am. I'm a member of a club as well.
Oh,
yeah, they're actually they're on their summer break at the moment, so we shut down over summer. And then we start back up. Actually, it'll be a couple of weeks. It's usually the second week in September. It gets going again. So
I don't know what to do next year actually. Whether to carry on with because I'm so busy with doing this show, which I love doing, and the people I'm talking to, and I do regular blogs, and obviously there's work as well, and that the bit that brings the money in to put the bread on the table. Mustn't forget that. So I don't quite know what to do about my camera club at the moment. We'll have to see. I have to make a decision on that fairly soon. Are you a member of a club at all, Vesa, in your area?
Not really. I'm kind of feel like an outsider in that sense, because earlier on when the camera clubs, I felt like they were so kind of technically oriented, or that I didn't have an interest on that, and so. But thanks to the wonderful world of internet and screen sharing and all that, I mean, you can find people that are similar-minded in a sense that I think of photography as art foremost, and then and then after that, or at least it's the most important aspect of photography for me. I mean, sometimes I have to think about it a different way, but So I kind of was put off with the too much of kind of the technical talk, and I wanted more about the art talk, which is more present in other arts more. You don't talk about the painter's brush and the things like that in a painter's meeting as much as in photography. And obviously photography is different, like we talked about the gear, and it does affect your art very straightforward. So that is a difference, but still that's probably the reason I never joined one.
Yeah, I think that one thing which the photography club does help you with is having your work critiqued. I'm not saying the critique work is good, because sometimes I find with the clubs, the judges which come along, which are totally independent. This is the way we run it in the UK.
Yeah.
The judge is totally independent of your club, so he comes in. Now he may have a particular interest in landscape photography.
Yeah.
And we know these guys. We know they're all from the same area, so you know for a fact that if you put a street photograph in there, you're not going to get a high mark.
Yeah.
Because he's immediately going to have his own personal opinion about an image.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like it because he likes landscape, or he likes still life, or he likes abstracts, or that sort of nature. One of the big no-nos in photography in clubs in our county, in Kent, is HDR. It is hated with a passion. And of course it is a case of love it or hate it. But as I keep saying to people, probably what we're going through at the moment with HDR is this is the new colour. Colour is what caused all the mono photographers back in the day to be so incensed about this new thing that had come forward. Colour? Why are we having photographs in colour? And I think that's why people are getting so uptight about the way HDR photography is. But with club photography, I would say it taught me how to realise and to accept criticism. But that's why I joined the club. I didn't want to. My family was saying, "Oh, great shot, super, super, super." Of course, when you took it into the club, you got the real truth, whether it was any good or not. But as I've said, Greg has heard me say this many times. I learned more about street photography in 5 days of being a member of the Arcanum than I did in 5 years of being a member of a photographic club. So that's where I'm wondering whether I'm going to get the value of carrying on being a member of a club, to be honest with you. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating listening to what's said, where they just don't read the photograph because it's not their genre, so to speak. But I do like the idea of people just meeting up, going for street walks in London, or in Greg's situation, Dublin there. I think that's a great idea. And just, did you say 30 or 40 people, Greg?
It was, yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was so surprised.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And there was like I say, there was people there with small compact cameras through to people with big DSLRs, the whole range. So it was good to see. I mean, the other thing that's I suppose is coming up in the same vein is Scott Kelby's Worldwide Photo Walk, which I think is 16th of October, if I'm right. So again, Dublin.
October, that rings bells. I must make a note of that, actually, because I was talking to someone about that. Thanks for reminding me.
I'm signed up for one of the Dublin walks anyway, so it seems to be 2 this year, which is good considering I don't think we've had any the last 2 years, so it's good to see it back. Yeah. So.
Well, that's assuming that you haven't got responsibilities at home, Greg.
That's how I'm trying to book these days well in advance. So
we mustn't lose sight of this. You cannot. Oh, it's on the calendar. Oh. Oh dear! I remember when I used to say, "Cheerio, get the old golf clubs in the back of the car," and I was gone for the day. And I look back now and I think to myself, "Well, dear, what a mistake I made." Oh dear, I did. Anyway, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining me today for this impromptu chat about projects, about your work, and I'm so pleased that Vessi, you've joined us, and you're starting to reap the benefit of being part of. In actual fact, the best way to describe the Arcanum is just a fantastic journey, and I think that what Greg and I have been in from the start, and you just get involved with everybody and get it. Any Google Hangout which the guys are going to sort out, just get on board and have a good chat. They're just a wonderful, wonderful bunch of people. And I don't think the sun sets on the street photography cohort. I think we've got people in Australia and we've got people on the west coast of America. So it's a bit like the old British Empire. Sets, as we used to say. Long are those days gone, I tell you. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Don't forget, you can get if you've just caught the back end of this show, you can get it on YouTube at your leisure. Just go to YouTube and find my show. I'll put the links into my blog, and I'll mention about the Arcanum, obviously, and all the other necessary links in the blog. That'll go out on the Monday. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and Greg knows my final line. Vesa, this is the first time you've heard it. My closing line is, leave your camera bag at home. All the best, you guys. Bye for now.
Bye now.